All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Golden Dice podcast. My name is Jack, and I'm here with our co-host. I think we should just call him at this point, Tommy.
What's up, Jack? Thank you for having me back, and I am happy to be here, happy to be part of the show whenever you need me.
Yeah, man. I mean, last episode was a lot of fun, and we got some good feedback from people after they got past the audio part, but we're ready to roll this time.
I promise I won't scream at you tonight.
And I won't cower in a corner softly whispering sweet nonsense. So this episode, what we're going to call is the Empire at War Swan Song. So with today, or yesterday at this point, we're recording on the 12th, Legacies dropped as the holiday preview. So it's not officially legal yet, but just about everybody is going to start playing Legacies unless you have a regional coming up. So safe to say this is the time of Legacies. So we're going to get into what Empire at War was. We're going to do a little recap, and then last night, me, Tommy, and a few others got together and opened some boxes, get some games. So we'll give first thoughts of throwing some cards together and playing some games. But we're going to start off. So I Rebel Destiny, shout out to them because on their website they posted some different decks. Some results from the regionals that happened, and I just basically compiled that info into a pie chart, numbers and stuff like that, so it might be a little bit easier to get a sense of how well different decks did. So we're just going to break that down and talk about it. So let's bring this up. Let's see. So top 8. Quick note about that. Top 8. So there's 10, I believe, regionals that I put in, but only 7 of them had a top 8. So that's going to throw off the total values a little bit, I guess, going from top 8 to top 4. But once top 4 happens, everything after that's 100% accurate of, who started and finished.
I think even with that slight skew, it's a good representation of what you were seeing at these regionals, even though this is all going to change now for the most part. But I think that you still get a great idea of what's going on out there.
Yeah. I just, not discounting the other ones, the smaller ones. It's more like if you saw 15 R2P2s go from top 8 and then top 4, that still could mean that 3 lost, but 3 got added in the top 4. So just if the exact numbers go through, they still could have lost or gained more. But either way, so we got our top 8 breakdowns. If you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see the numbers right in front of me, but I'll just quickly read them through for any of our iTunes listeners. We've got 18 Qui-Gon Kanan. We've got 15 R2-P2, 6 of the Bala Night Sister Sienna, 5 Kylo 2 Vader 2, 3 Sabine Ezra, 3 Palp, 2 Poe Kanan, 2 Kylo FN, and then we have 1 Han Snap, First Order Stormtrooper Sienna Guavian, and then Ezra Rookie Instructor Hired Gun, Jango Phasma, Vader Magna Guard, Seven Sister Dooku, Hux Sienna Guavian, Jabba Dooku, and then the Hero Mill, which is Riken, Padme, and Jedi Instructor. So first thoughts. A little more than 50% of the field is Hero Blue.
Yeah, that's staggering. I don't think that's surprising. I mean, if you're playing any local tournaments, I'm sure you've had your fill of Hero Blue at the moment. I think you're building a blue deck, whether it's light side or dark side. You're thinking initially you need Force Illusion and you probably need Ancient Lightsaber. Outside of maybe the Rainbow 5 Villains deck, it's just powerful stuff. It's that sustained build right now. That's what we're in. The Vibro Knife change has created a meta where you've got some staying power now on the table, and I'm not really sure what that means for the future. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's definitely since Force Illusion used to say block. Now they can actually block things with Vibro Knife being much less played. Just Force Illusion. I mean, I even think 5-die generally runs Force Illusion. Probably not Ancient, but...
Yeah, they just don't run the Ancient.
Yeah. So that's... We'll kind of break it down at the end and kind of give our thoughts a little more as we go through and see the winners and stuff. But scrolling through to top 4. All right, this one we got 16 R2-P2. So that's the thing. Like I said, there were 15 in the top 8, and now there's 16 in the top 4. So That's just something to note. So 16 R2P2s, 11 Qui-Gon Kanans, 3 Sabine Ezras, 3 Kylo 2 Vader 2s, 2 of the 5 dice villain, and then we have 1 Kylo FN, Hux Jabba, Jango Phasma, 4 wide villain, which is the 2 First Orders, and Sieta and Guavian, and then we have 1 Jabba Dooku. So again, now we're even approaching like 55-60% of the field being Hero Blue with Qui-Gon Kanan. But Qui-Gon Kanan took a huge hit, going from, was it around 18 decks, I think it was, down to 11.
That said, they're still, even after taking that hit, they're still making up, more than a quarter of the field.
Yeah, 26%. I mean, that's still crazy. I mean, ever since the Barber Knife hit, it's just been everybody swung to the extreme opposite of doing shields everything now, and just Blue Hero does a phenomenal job of doing that. So it's no surprise to kind of see them at the top.
I agree. I liked it. I didn't have a huge problem with the meta. It was a nice change of pace. It was drastically different than the previous Spirit of Rebellion meta, which I still find the majority of my decks contain cards coming from Spirit of Rebellion. But why don't we move on to the top 2?
Yeah. Top 2. Here we got 12 R2P2s, 5 Qui-Gon Kanans, 2 Kylo 2 Vader 2s, and 1 Sabine Ezra. So here we really start to see the field drastically take shape. I mean, at this point, it was 50% between R2P2 and Qui-Gon Kanan. Now at this point, we're at 85% of the field is Qui-Gon Kanan in the top 2, which is a little disheartening.
Yeah, R2P2 and Qui-Gon Kanan are it's the same. It's the caution. It's the Force illusions. It's the defense that's getting these 2 decks to the top. I mean, I think what's edging out R2P2 is the ability to special chain. They have a little bit more unmitigatable damage, maybe, or at least damage that's harder to mitigate than Qui-Gon Kanan. I think outside of the Kanan shenanigans, you're not getting a whole lot through without giving them a window to mitigate damage. But yeah, they're just tank decks. They're just so much life, so much health to cut through with the recurring shields and the illusions.
Yeah, and it's also like taking shields of Qui-Gon Kanan is simply sacrificing that die, right? If you resolve the 1 shield on Qui-Gon, you're really at maximum doing 1 damage, or you're just taking that shield. Whereas R2P2, you resolve that special on Poe, you get a shield, and then you probably turn a handcrafted Lipo to remove full shields from Qui-Gon and do 2 more damage. So it's like a 5 or 6 damage swing. You doing 5 and getting 1 shield.
Yeah, it's the difference between the 2 decks is the burst of R2P2 and the chipping away aspect of Qui-Gon Kanan, where they both actually wind up having about the same amount of staying power. But you've also got the chipping effect of Rey in the R2P2 with the 1 damage per activation, as long as she has a shield, which is pretty easy to guarantee if you have a Shoto and another blue weapon on her.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon's, I mean, most people I really don't think did the Luke's protection. Shoot, I don't remember. What is that 2-cost upgrade? Draw a card, get a shield.
Fearless.
Fearless, yeah. People would, do the Luke's protection and then do Fearless, and that way you're probably pinging Qui-Gon a lot more, but you're a lot slower.
Yeah, at that point you're getting outclaimed by support decks at times. I mean, you can really loop that and do it. You can stack some damage up, but the other problem with that is you're seeing 1 less card per turn, so you're missing your outs, whether it's removal or that next Force illusion or an upgrade. So you're one card not as deep in your deck as you should be.
Or even some people would loop too. I had played before, and at that point you're really just not getting through your deck and not seeing the things you have to see. And then my point with that is that maybe at that point you're probably doing 4 to 5 damage with Qui-Gon's pinging, but generally I feel like you're only doing 2 to 3 with Qui-Gon's pinging. And the fact that Rey can match that just by rolling out almost kind of put a dent into that Qui-Gon Kanan pinging. The fact that they can do it just as well.
Yeah, it's just a better deck.
Yeah. So this single Sabine Ezra in the top 2 didn't really surprise me. I remember after the rules reference came out and the changes to that, Sabine Ezra is probably the most talked about deck before R2P2 was realized. And it's just a roll dependent deck. I mean, it can roll out, Sabine can kill you, and then that's that. Or she can just never hit damage and you mitigate her dice, and she dies relatively quickly, only having 11 health and almost no shield generation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a testament to that player, whoever won that event. I don't know how many people were there, but A deck like that, you do need to have either a great day of rolls where you just roll, you know, the nuts every single time you pick up a die, or you really got to play your way out of some tough games. And I applaud the player that piloted that, because it's a powerful deck. But like you said, you can really get burnt with some bad rolls in that one.
Yeah, here, actually, I didn't even scroll down to the winners. But yeah, so the winners ended up being 7 R2P2s, 2 Kylo 2 Vader 2s, and 1 Sabine Ezra. So again, all of these, I think iRebel has 9 of them. And then after I compiled this, I saw reports out of a regional in France that had one, and Kylo 2 Vader 2 was the winner of that. So even before, or just before that came out, R2P2 had about like 80% of the field with 7 wins out of the 9. So it was a little bit ridiculous. And just in note, remember in the beginning, R2P2 was at 25% of the field in the top 8, and now we look at the winner circle and it's 70% of R2P2.
Yep, those are staggering numbers. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so I guess at this point, it kind of starts to beg the question of, was Empire at War a good meta after the rules reference? Because after the rules reference is really when most of regionals, and was PAX in Philly, was that after the rules reference? Yeah, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, it was. It was PAX was PAX Unplugged. It was probably the biggest tournament after the rules reference, and it was exciting. It really I was at that event, and it really felt like the Wild West. It was kind of like you don't know what you're gonna see. It was crazy. It was hard to predict the meta, and there was a little buzz for R2P2 before that. Not much. There was some articles by the Hyperloops about the budget deck, and it had a little buzz. There was some talk from the Knights of Ren fellas. I think it was Todd's deck, about he was going to run R2P2, and there was a lot of there was a small amount of hype for that deck. But I think that most people thought, or at least from my perspective, I anticipated a lot of Qui-Gon Kanan. I anticipated a fair amount of 5 dice villains. I didn't anticipate Kylo 2 Vader, although that did very well at the Galactic qualifiers. And there was a lot of top level players at the Galactic qualifiers. I mean, there was, people that had won major events, whether it was on TTS or at Gen Con or whatever event, take your pick, Worlds. There was fantastic players from all over the world that had flew in from all kinds of places. We were just fortunate enough to have it in our backyard. But that was the first event where it was after the change. And I can say that at that event, the meta felt very healthy.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can't just look at the decks in events like that. You have to look at, I mean, obviously the best players are probably going to run the best decks at especially a tournament like that on the first day. They might change it up for the second and third. But I mean, yeah, you have guys like Artificery, guys like the Knights of Ren, some golden dice guys out there. It's just it's just a great field. So sadly, I think I mentioned last episode, but I wasn't able to make PAX Unplugged. I was away that weekend and was unable to come to any of the tournaments, which was disappointing. And I think that kind of led to Empire at War being disappointing for myself, just because I did nothing with it. Like, one of my buddies, Brian, will come over and play with me all the time. And as we got halfway through Empire at War, I was just like, I don't know. I don't even feel like doing this. Like, I love Destiny, but I don't want to play any more of this set.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had that. I mean, I got, after PAX Unplugged, I am expecting a child with my wife, and I didn't think I was going to be able to make any regional events, and I just kind of checked out. And even if our regional was going to be, whether it was Empire at War or Legacies or not, but there is going to be a regional in North Jersey that I'm going to attempt to attend on the 10th of February. And so I'm excited. I think, Legacies dropping officially. Is it the 1st or 2nd of February, Jack?
Let me check the count. I think it's the 1st. The 1st is a Thursday, so.
So I would anticipate we would have the green light for Legacies for that event, and I'm totally reinvigorated. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to test. Got 7 games in last night, which is a light night for me, but it's a starting point, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go out with the old and with the new. I liked the meta, but I do feel like people got lazy, as you mentioned, with the meta. People weren't building, weren't innovating, they weren't trying to counter the meta. I think that's the sign of a stale meta, and it's not that it was a bad meta, it's just people got bored with it.
Yeah, and it's a point that's been brought up too, but the accessibility of R2P2 is very, very easy to get those characters. You buy 2-player starters, you already have then Poe, you have Rey, you know, you might run Honor Guard, which is a solid choice. You got Sound the Alarms, and there's another card that they've run, but I can't remember. Oh, Poe's Blaster you probably have in that deck.
Absolutely.
You might maybe have Rey's Lightsaber, but you're probably going for more special chaining stuff, so maybe not. I mean, the only expensive parts of that deck are the ancient lightsabers, and now that's not, you know, not to scoff at that. That's still like a $40 to $50 card. But still, you know, relative to Poe Maz of Spirit Rebellion, which had U-Wings, Falcons, thermal detonators, Poe himself was a legendary. So you had all these expensive cards, whereas R2-P2, I feel like you could assemble much easier. So just anybody could just pick it up and play with it.
I mean, that's definitely, it's accessible. That definitely played into it. The other thing that's not kind of nice about it is the fact that you're playing with, you know, main characters from the Star Wars franchise. You know, there's no more like Bala running wild everywhere. Who's that guy again? Like,
Tell that to Conja Club.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Star Wars, so I know who all these characters are and could go on a tirade with a lot of them. But players want to play the popular characters, the main characters.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's how I am too. The second the 2-player set was released, I was all about playing Poe and Rey. It didn't really work out because Force Illusion said block, and Vibra Knife was still a thing. Shields did not matter. I really just had Ancients and Field Medic to kind of keep me alive a little bit. And I liked it because I got to play with two, the new characters from the new series, but it just was not good. And then once the errata happened, I did try it again, and I realized it was pretty good. So it didn't surprise me once it started winning all of them of the tournaments. I didn't realize it was a 70% winner of regionals, but to see it do so well, and especially in the beginning, I know there were a lot of people doubting it simply because of Rey. I know people were trying Poe Kanan a little bit with it, and I think there were 2 of them in the top 8, but you didn't see any in the top 4 and above. People were doubting Rey a lot, so I think they were trying to bust down the deck a lot. But I mean, her extra damage from shields, because generally people are going for Poe first, but that extra shield by round 3 or 4, you know, it's an extra 3 to 4 damage that have been pumped out. That's guaranteed if she has a shield on her.
Yeah.
So,
that's solid.
I think that then begs the question of balance of the Force. I mean, do we feel going into Legacies that, I mean, Rey probably isn't going to define it, but is Poe going to define Legacies, and does he need to go up a point or 2?
I don't believe so. I personally don't think that Poe is the problem. I do think that we need to keep an eye on special chaining. I'm not sure what the solution is. I haven't scoured that through my mind yet, but I guess we're going to see. And that might be a topic of conversation in the future about what can we do about special chaining, or you can only put so many characters on the balance of the Force sheet. I'm not sure that FFG wants to do that. One character in the 2-player starter set, one of the 4 is already on the sheet.
Yeah.
Like, that's not great for the game. I mean, it's just not. I mean, did she need to be on the sheet? Yes, Phasma definitely needed a point increase. But I think having characters in starter decks, you know, the decks that are going to be in the hands of new players, some that are going to be trying to go to events, you know, for the first time at their local game store, and find out that this character is not the points it's printed, it's disheartening, and it can leave people with a negative taste. And I think FFG is going to do everything they can to avoid putting either of those 2 characters on the balance of the Force sheet.
Yeah, and I all the time on Reddit, on the Facebook post, people will ask, hey, what should I buy as a good starting point? Should I just buy an Awakenings box, or should I buy a Rey starter or the 2-player set or whatever it might be? And I always say to buy the 2-player set if you're starting out, but then I just feel so dumb. I'm like, so buy it, but one of the teams is not legal for tournament. But if you're just going to play with a friend, just go all out. Like, play them together at Elite. You know, you'll have a better time than being a stickler about the rules with a friend just trying to get into the game. But it does feel dumb. And now if I would have to say both teams aren't legal, I think that would just be really, really weird. And then especially, too, like with Poe, I think the thing is, so special chaining could become an issue. It's looking very strong, but I think it's more so special chaining with blue, and we'll get into that later when we talk about legacies in our games. But if you think about red, what does red really offer for special chaining? And it's just right now, I think it's Pose Blaster.
Pose Blaster's the big one, yeah. The other thing it kind of helps is the fact that you have C3PO in red, and he can add a layer of consistency. Knowing that if the 2 dice are in the pool, you can special no matter what.
Yep. Yeah, but it's I think with special chaining could be an issue, and we'll have to see how that plays out next few weeks. But I honestly don't think it's going to be from Poe. I think it's going to be from a certain little blue character. Although he's green, but his color is blue. I think that was perfect.
Thank you.
But yeah, just again because of the color, and talking about Yoda, he has 2 specials. He can also special chain and stuff like that. But again, we'll get into him a little bit more. But so just kind of wrapping up Empire at War meta, where would you rank it?
I would rank it as, I think it was a fine set. I think that, well, the problematic cards for the meta didn't come from Empire at War. So I have no problem with Empire at War, to be completely honest. I liked the set as a whole. Did it feel underpowered at times? Yes, but it also followed, the most powerful set that's ever been released in the game. And it hasn't been that many sets, but to this point, I would say conservatively that Spirited Rebellion was probably the most powerful set to be released. And the next set is bound to feel a little lackluster. I think there's a lot of great cards in Empire at War, and I think a lot of those cards are going to continue to see play through the remainder of their standard life and beyond for anybody that is playing the Legacies format.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. So I really wasn't around for the Awakenings meta. I just kind of started getting into the game, and Spirit Rebellion probably released a month after I started playing. So I can't really say to that. But again, Spirit Rebellion, I think I enjoyed it a lot because it was the season of Store Championship. So I was always trying to figure out a good deck. I didn't want to run FN, so I really had to do a lot more testing to try to figure out what was good against him and Pomaz at the same time. So that was just a lot of fun. And I don't think it was because I love the set. I think it's just because I love Store Championship season. But again, Spirit Rebellion has such great cards that, half of my deck, my 30-card deck, it's generally Spirit Rebellion. Events, upgrades, all that good stuff. So,
yeah, we're exactly the same, Jack. We both love to compete. I love to put the work in and play test and try to come up with my own brew of something and a new twist on something or counter a deck, and that's where I find the most fun in the game as well. And I think that we play off each other well that way. But for a casual player, that isn't trying to prep for their next regional, I think that EAW is a good set for going to your local game store and seeing some crazy support decks and fun stuff like that.
As a Rebels fan, I also loved it. And now in Legacies, we finally rounded out with Zeb and Callus.
You mean Kalis?
Excuse me. All right, so I think that just about wraps up. Although I guess another question is, what is so going forward, looking into Legacies, what would you think a diverse or balanced meta would be? We're looking at the end of Empire at War, and we have 3 different decks that have won regionals. And I didn't include Gen Con, but just a little bit, just regionals. So you could take that into account as you want as the answer to this question. But we have 70% of the winners was one deck, while there were 3 different decks. Meanwhile, Spirit Rebellion had a lot more store championships, but it was dominated by Pomaz and Rainbow FN. So
I think a balanced meta is sometimes it's just simply a rock paper scissors, things that keep other things in check. I think that's important in games. I think when you do have a deck that takes the top game, the 1 seed at so many events consecutively, it can be disheartening. You don't want to go to an event, have 6 rounds, and play the same deck 4 times, and then play another deck twice.
Yep.
It's disheartening. It's not fun. It's not the best play experience. If you love competing, you're going to do it anyway, and you're going to have a good time because you're your competitive juices are going to be flowing. The prizes are at stake, but it's not the best experience to play that every single time. It does get stale after a while, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
But I do think a rock paper scissors meta is what I would consider a healthy meta, where you have one thing that counters something, and that counters something, and then that counters the first thing. It's just a cyclical thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the tough part is, like, I feel like a good counter to R2P2 is Palp at times, but then Palp just got beat out in almost every other matchup. So it was almost nobody was showing up with him, or nobody was just trying to counter. So, yeah, I definitely think, like, 3 to 4 decks, if you see in that top area, is a healthy thing when they counter each other. But having one deck with 60 or 70% win rate was a little disheartening. So hopefully that can sort out. There's a lot of good characters in Legacies, so I think we will see that change a little bit.
I agree, and it is a copycat meta, especially if there's new players getting in and they want to compete immediately. They are going to take, oh, this works, let's go. You know what I mean? Let's put it together and go. That is a thing that absolutely happens in collectible card games.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of it, and that's nothing against any of those people. Many people playing this game have, a full-time job, have kids and stuff, where I'm not at that point, so I can spend several hours a week just looking over my cards or playing on TTS or getting together with friends, going to a tournament, and some people might not even have a local game store where they can show up to every week. So, that's not to blame them. It's just the nature of the beast,
Absolutely.
really. So
there's nothing wrong with reaching out and seeing what's out there.
Definitely. All right, so that'll wrap up just our talk about Empire War overall.
I have one more thing. I just want
give
to
it.
shout out to Partnership. I love that card, and I hope it sticks around in decks, even though it's never really been in decks other than mine and my brother's.
So this guy, Tommy is who I'm talking about. In case I'm talking about you, Tommy. Shows up with a Palp deck and has just like the most he had like a Z95 Headhunter in there, and like a few other things, but just to play Partnership, he'd roll out and be like, I don't even care what that thing rolled. I'm resolving this 6 damage +4 from Palpatine. So, and you can't even do anything about it because I partnershipped.
It's really good when you have 4 speed and you just can stack like 3 actions to hide Palpatine's dice and just get all these. If there's any die that you want to hide from opponent's mitigation, it's Palpatine. So I just figured, let's have fun with that.
Yep, and it was really funny because I remember I think me and my buddy Brian came over and you did like a Palp mirror match, and it was your version with Partnership versus like his was like a standard Sith Holocron, just what you think would be in a Palp deck, and then you just do all that crazy stuff and get around mitigation and resolve all your dice and then mitigate his. It was just like a blowout match of that, simply because of how nobody expects to play a Palp deck that has Partnership and supports in there.
I love Partnership. I have a crush on Partnership, but that's the end of my EAW talk. I just wanted to bring that up.
All right, moving on. So we talked about how we last night opened up boxes and played games. How many boxes did you get, Tom?
I got 1, but that said, me and my brother pool all our cards together, so my brother also got 1.
You got 1. Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could say we got 2.
Yeah. So I told myself I was going to get 2. And then I got 3.
Jack, you got a problem. This is an intervention.
It's a problem that will never be solved. But yeah, it was weird because this set, like, I generally don't. If you ask me, I would say I don't want repeats in a box of rares. But then I open up one box, I didn't get a single repeat, which is okay. I open up my second box and I barely matched up any characters. So it was like I had no elite versions of like anything. And then I was like, all right, I have to get a third. So then my third kind of rounded out. I have a few, but I still need a few extra, few rares that I'll have to buy. But 3 boxes kind of was good, and I just didn't have the patience to wait for draft to round out my collection.
It's tough. It's tough, man. There's a lot. There's 74 diced cards in the set. I'm looking at it right now. It's a lot of cards, If you need 2 of something for your deck, it's not always easy to pair it. It's very tough.
Yeah, and I definitely still feel like I'm on bare bones a little bit, but as we talked about, I think characters was the best thing, and I paired up a lot of good characters, so I don't really need too many of the upgrades just yet, at least it seems. But yeah, so So last week we talked about what we wanted to pull, what our top 6 were, what our bottom 6 were. So at this point, we'll just kind of see how many out of my 3 boxes and your 2 boxes, what we got of our top and what we got of our bottom. So I'll quickly recap and say my top 6 was Yoda, Finn, Obi-Wan Saber, Speeder Tank, Zeb, and Maul. Not saying they're all the best competitive, like the Speeder Tank I just kind of wanted because it seemed like it would be really fun. Out of my 3 boxes, I got 2 Yoda, which I'm ecstatic about. I got 2 Finn. I got 1 Obi-Wan Saber and 1 Maul. So I didn't get a Zeb or a Speeder Tank, but I'm relatively okay with that.
Likewise, I had my 6 favorite. I don't remember. I know I made a last-minute change last week from what I had written down here, but I have Yoda, Kylo Ren, Starfighter, Obi-Wan's lightsaber, Maul's lightsaber, and then I have Greedo and Finn written down. I think I swapped Greedo for Tarkin on my list. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah.
But, so, I have a special trick, Jack. I don't know if you know this, but there's something that I can recommend to you, and that's to marry a wizard. Or I guess a witch, if you're going by the gender specific. So I say, Nicole, this is my wife's name. I said, Nicole, please just pick out, which box is going to be mine from the 4 that my friend Scott brought over. And she picks one. And I said, go ahead, open the packs. She opens the packs. Jack, I am not kidding when I tell you that she pulled Yoda, Kylo Ren Starfighter, Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. She pulled Maul's lightsaber. She pulled a Finn, and I can't remember what my 6th... Oh, it was the Zeb's
rifle.
bow rifle. But she got 5 out of my 6.
That's crazy.
I love that woman. I love her. I mean, that's a good wife right there.
Absolutely. So basically, when the next set drops, we'll all take a car trip out to our local game store, and I'll have her pick out my box.
I told people that were here last night when they were opening boxes, I said, hey, if you need her to open your stuff, feel free. She's up for it.
Joe declined it, and then he was very frustrated in his pulls.
He pulled a bunch of bow rifles and a bunch of rebel leaders and.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, I mean, to do 3 boxes and get 2 Yodas, I can't be upset because ultimately, even if I go out and buy every other legendary, prices are really high now. But like, if I wanted a playset of Callus's rifle and Zeb's. Well, I actually ended up pulling 2 Zeb rifles, but like if I for some reason wanted Graham off, I could probably end up buying that for $5 down the road. Whereas if I wanted Yoda, that's going to be a $40 investment.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll let my bottom 6. My bottom 6 was Grand Moff, Rebellion Leader, Force Wave, Afra, Greedo, and Callus Rifle. And what did I? Oh, I pulled 2 Rebellion Leaders, a Force Wave, a rifle, and Greedo.
Yeah. My bottom 6 was Grand Moff, Rebellion Leader, Zeb's rifle, Callus's rifle, Dr. Afra, and Saul Guerrera. The only one of those 6 that I pulled that my wife pulled was the Zeb rifle. My brother in his 6, since they're all kind of pulled together, we did pair the Yoda. We also got a Callus rifle, a Force Wave. We paired the Kylo Starfighter. We pulled a Speeder Tank, which I think he traded later for an Afra because he's obsessed with that card. I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, like, I really wasn't, like, the rifles I didn't want, but I'm not super upset. The only thing I'm upset about, really, is the 2 Rebellion Leaders. Because I feel like at 3 costs, I could at least fit the bow rifles in some type of deck and have them see play a little bit. Probably not meta-defining or anything like that, but the Rebellion and Grand Moff, it's like, I don't think I will ever spend 4 or even really overwrite into this. And I have Greedo. I mentioned it last week. I have Greedo on there, but I really am not upset that I got him. It's just I knew I probably wasn't going to play like a 5-die or anything like that. So, but I'll probably try to fit him in just because I have him somewhere. So,
yeah, he's solid. He's not one to be upset about.
No, not at all. Overall, so I was pretty happy. Also I pulled 2 Maul Sabers. Just looking through other stuff. I pulled a Kylo Starfighter too. I got a Tarkin, and I was actually going back surprised how much in a week my opinion changed. I played with Tarkin on TTS, and I wanted him so bad. So I'm so happy I got one of him. He looks
solid.
He's fun. I've been playing him with Seventh Sister. A lot of the early rumblings were, I think, him and Kylo too, but now a lot of people are starting to shift towards Seven Sister, which I think is the better option. Just I think vomiting the board with dice and removing your blanks and other things and doing damage with the Seven Sister die is a lot of damage coming that opponent's way.
Yeah, it looks strong. I'm excited to test that and to test against it to see what the matchups look like against that deck.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so overall, both of us were pretty happy with what we pulled and going forward. And I actually have a draft tomorrow. Sadly, you're not able to make it. You know,
No.
have to spend time with your wife at some point.
Well, I have to spend time in front of the TV watching my Eagles play.
True. That'll be on before, and we'll probably start playing in a little bit after. I'm actually repping "Winning is for the Birds" shirt right now, and just so you know, the real Birds. In case Jay and Chris are listening, the real Birds are going to win.
That's right.
Tomorrow.
That's right.
But yeah, so I got a Legacy draft tomorrow, so hopefully I'll be able to round out a few more rares, and we'll be doing a snake draft at the end since we don't have prize support. So hopefully I do well and can take a pick from. Round out my collection. Like at this point, since I'm playing with friends, it's really just like me, a few of my friends, my girlfriend playing. So it's not like if a Yoda's in there, I would take him. I already have two. You know, I could take it and sell it, but I'd rather one of my friends get it than myself.
Yeah, my brother will be there, and I told him the same thing. I was like, you know, let somebody else pair their Yoda if you do well enough to get one.
Yeah, so, I mean, the nice part is that I guess technically I'll be getting two legendaries since I'm paying for my girlfriend and we share a collection, really. And I use that term loosely because she's been playing Baze Maz for like the past 6 months, so it's really like she just took him and I haven't, I've never been able to play with him. So yeah, so we'll be doing that, and then, you know, I pay for her fee and cover that. So it'll be a good time. I'm really excited to draft Legacies, and I love doing it with Awakenings. It was our first one. Then we did Empire War, which was, you know, okay. So now I'm just excited to do Legacies.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it.
Definitely. So at this point, I guess we should talk about a little bit about what we ran last night. We could start off with your deck, I guess, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
For anybody watching on YouTube, we have it right here. So iTunes listeners, I'll post it on our Facebook page and stuff, or you can just jot it down as we're talking about it. I'll just go through and read off the list that I have right in front of me. So it is 1 die Aayla Secura, a Jedi Temple Guard, and 2 die Yoda. And it's got 2 ancient lightsabers, 2 force illusions, 2 force throws, 2 handcrafted light bows, Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber, 2 Shotos, 2 funeral pyres, R2D2, 2 caution, 2 flank, 2 force misdirection, 2 guard, 1 lightsaber pull, 1 lightsaber training, 2 my allies of force, 2 reaping the crystal, and 2 sound the alarm. So this is what you sent me before we opened boxes, and this is what you were kind of thinking in your mind. And I know it changed a little bit that night, but it was still pretty solid.
Originally, I was thinking 2 Aayla because I felt like I needed more natural damage. But that said, we didn't pair Aayla. We only got 1, but we paired Yoda. So I was like, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
I made some other minor changes. I took the Shotos out. I didn't feel like I had the weapons or melee sides to pair them well enough. I also took out the lightsaber training.
Yeah.
I can't remember. There were some other minor changes. I was heavy on mitigation. I think I put some overconfidence in place of guards. I made a couple other minor changes, but overall the deck played really well. I'm not sure if everybody else's decks were just right yet. I mean, there was some questions on how many upgrades certain players were running. There was I know Brian was playing Legacies only, so you know he was missing out on some good mitigation. But the special chaining was nuts. I didn't know if I was going to be able to have the economy to put out the upgrades that I needed to, and Yoda is a one-man economy. He will bank you the entire way. It's kind of insane. He was actually, I thought Yoda was amazing, and he was better than I anticipated. It was a powerful deck. I think I won seven games. I lost none.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, people run Sienna Ree simply because she has 2 resource sides. Heroes might start running Rose for an 8.2 resource sides with her special, essentially. But Yoda, with his special, you have 2 resource sides. You have, I mean, does he have a shield side? He has so technically you could have 3 shields, you know, just all these options that you can do, and you're able to chain them together. So if you get 1 special, you're going to get 2 resources from him. Generally, you know, you might go shields or whatever you need in that situation, but he is definitely a money maker. Because even when you sent me this, I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if Binds All Things has a place in this deck. It might slow you down a little bit, but with all the blue upgrades you're playing, it might be a good choice. But then when I played against you, I was like, I don't think he had trouble playing any single thing.
No, I mean we were on turn 3, and I had force throw and 2 handcrafted light bows. It was insane. I think I upped it to 2 lightsaber pulls as well to go get those essential weapons like that and the Obi-Wan saber. The Obi-Wan saber was actually better than I thought too, because again with Yoda's special, I really didn't have a problem accumulating shields when I needed to. I could actually perform a special chain to up my shield count, then resolve the Obi-Wan's lightsaber special, gain another shield, and strike for 3 unblockable.
Yeah, you chain Yoda's with it. You get 2 resources, or 2 shields on that character, and then once you get to Obi-Wan's turn, you get the 3rd shield and do 3 unblockable, which is super consistent.
It was strong.
And then suddenly that character has 3 more HP, so it's a 6 swing, which is super good. Yeah, I thought it performed really well. I mean, a 2-note, I think this is important, though, too, because he will probably be in the field going forward, but Kylo 2, you didn't play against Kylo 2 or his Starfighter, right?
No, and I've already changed the deck. I took out the Jedi Temple Guardian, and I'm going to try the Rebel Trooper to keep some Guardian, have, 1 less health. And yes, there's a +2 ranged, a +1 range, I think it is, that I won't be able to resolve very often. But with Yoda's ability to change the dice and Ayla's and the fact that the light bow even does have a range side, as well as the force throw. I every once in a while I tried that out a few times. I took out R2. I put 3PO in. I've got field medic now. So now my blue to red and gray ratio is much more palatable when I'm facing a deck like Kylo 2 or Kylo 2 Starfighter. I think that it'll give me a little more staying power in that matchup.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even that, if the trooper rolls a blank or the +1, that's always an option for, he's a good caution die to use.
Yeah, that's true. He is a great caution die. Oh, and not to mention I added partnership.
Of course you did. So I think this was a solid deck. Playing against it, we'll look at my deck that was close the game between us. So I also played my Luke Finn, and I think the more I play it, the more I'm getting a little bit frustrated with it. I think it's a good deck, but I think the second you kill Luke, and I think going for Luke is the right decision, and once you kill him, Finn just kind of falters, because then he probably rolls out, and he's probably getting the +2 and the 3 indirect, or even if I get the 2 and the +2 on his die, you're probably mitigating his 2, and then all of a sudden I'm left with like the E11 blaster, which only has one side, or it's just rough. A lot of times and throughout the games that night, I was left a little disappointed with Finn late game. So he struggles to close out, I think.
He does. I think that one thing that might end up helping you is I think you were running Heirloom Saber, and Heirloom Saber is amazing.
Yeah.
But you might want to opt for something else that's going to redeploy, that has black range damage sides on it, just so that he has more viability with that modified side of his.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, Heirloom, I kind of put it in first glance, it's like, why not? 3 black damage sides, one of them's a 3. And
I totally get it. It's good. It's a good card.
Yeah, so definitely has some changes. I'm not going to give up on it right away, but definitely after last night, walked away a little frustrated with that deck. But I guess we can move on to the other deck that I was running last night, which is Wedge Yoda, and I had a lot of fun with this deck. The only time I didn't have fun was when I first turn went with my battlefield, so I played a Resistance Bomber for 2, and then you reaping the crystal into a force throw. And all of a sudden, my 6 for 2s were going to get thrown in my face, so I actually rolled it out. Couldn't pay for the 6 for 2. You rolled out, got the special, and I was like, wow, I'm about to eat 6 damage, so I had to wedge power action into a blank. I was like, that felt so bad.
You prevented 6 damage with that power action, so I mean, as bad as it felt,
yeah,
it was the right play to make. And I think that me playing a force throw on turn 1 is not a great matchup for you.
No.
But I got to tell you, Jack, that deck performed way better than I anticipated. That is a lot of damage to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to go for, is just over, like, I don't like to give my opponents choices, but when it's like a choice between the 6 from the Resistance Bomber and the +3 from Wedge, and I'll have to assign 9 damage, I think that's a choice that I want to put in put my opponent in. But yeah, it's just like overwhelming. Got the Y-wing special that's always able to get off. Wedge, power action, focus to the 6 for 2. Even if you really have to remove the resistance bomber die, because if you blank it out, make me re-roll it. Yoda has a double focus. Yoda has his special, of course. So there's just a lot of ways where I can keep turning it back. So it's just super easy to get that 6 for 2 off. And then I have C-3PO, so then I can use him for the Y-wing. So generally I'm getting out 10 indirect damage, but still 10 damage a turn is a lot.
It's a ton of damage a turn. Another thing that I think hurt you in our matchup was I'm running 3 characters, and I'm pretty proficient at putting shields on my characters, which are 2 things that I think work well against that deck, in addition to force throw.
Yeah, and I think something I have to look at is just keep playtesting this and see how I like the mitigate. The mitigation set seems a little weak because it seems like I'm really in a race to do damage with this set, or these 2 characters. So what I have for resistance is the suppression field, but that costs 2. So sometimes it's really deciding between, do I play this, if I have 3 resources, do I play this Y-wing or do I play the suppression field? So, and sometimes if I'm eating a 3, that suppression field, I spending 2 to remove 1 die. It doesn't feel very good. And then, I have hidden motives, pin down, sound the alarm. So it's like the mitigation suite is a little bit short. I was just really trying out the suppression field, because in theory, if I do a 2 and a 2, I spend 2 to block, 2 different dice, and 4 damage, which is good. But, in matchups, say I'm playing against Obi-Wan, and he rolls out the 3 using suppression field on 1-3 again, just doesn't feel super great. But I think just trying to survive a little bit longer. Yoda's getting a shield every time with him is awesome, and turning to the 3 on the chance cube is great resource generation. If I get the chance cube out, I really never have a problem making money to play things or resolve the resistance bomber.
Yoda himself is going to help with your economy. I think that your economy looked perfectly fine in our individual game, but it's just nice to see these decks in the wild, and you get to see them function organically. And these might not be the meta matchups yet, but just to start to get a feel for how you're performing, how it looks, things you can do, different plays that you might be able to make. It's just nice.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to play with a plot, which is super exciting. Mine was the simple one, just draw a card. Helps me get through my deck, because I really only have 6 vehicles right now. I have the Resistance Bomber, Y-Wing, and the ETA Interceptor, which isn't great, but it has that 3 indirect side. So sometimes if I get that early and pairing up with wedges is pretty good. But that's definitely just something I'm trying out. I was debating putting something like a U-Wing in there, but for 5, I have a pretty good resource generation like we talked about, but still 5's a lot. So
I think that U-Wing could be really nice with those Yoda specials.
Yes, special chaining would be great. So it's something I'll try out. I'd probably end up dropping the ETA, but we'll just have to see how it goes a little bit. And Rally 8, actually, now that I'm playing with it more, has been pretty clutch. I was pretty bad when I first started playing with it, because I kept thinking it was only useful with vehicles, but sometimes spending 1 to play 3PO, I have a strategic planning in my hand, and then I then Rally Aid my strategic planning, ready my Y-Wing for free, roll out 3PO, roll out the Y-Wing after my opponent has claimed, and just an extra 4 damage that they weren't expecting is pretty nice.
Yeah, that's a solid play.
But yeah, overall, it was a lot of fun to just sit down and play Destiny with new cards. I mean, like we said, a lot of us, we kind of went in, we knew Yoda was going to be good. You were looking at it, we kind of knew what we wanted to run, but sometimes we didn't pull the cards we wanted, or we were simply just trying stuff out a little bit. I mean, I've played on TTS, but I have to work with the cards that I had in person, so it was just a lot of fun to be able to sit down and see what everybody was running.
Yeah, it was a blast. It's just it's the exploration period. It's the fun unknown right now.
Yeah, and it's always a lot of fun to make fun of our friend Joe for only putting like 3 upgrades in an Obi-Wan deck. So
yeah, come on, Joe. What are you thinking?
It was funny once everybody realized that.
That was funny. I think Scott pointed it out. He laid it into him pretty good.
Well, yeah, he was like, "How many? How do you like?" It was you just played him again. I think you killed him the first game, and then you guys played again, and again he didn't get any upgrades on Obi-Wan, and I think Scott was just like, "Where are your upgrades? How many? What do you have in there?" And he showed him the box, and it was like Obi-Wan's lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber, and
Rey's lightsaber,
something like that. I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm running lightsaber pull."
He had 2 Shotos. I think he had 5 total.
5 total.
And he had the lightsaber pulls, but it just.
It was funny.
Like, where are the ancients? Where are the heirlooms? I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, it's funny. We love you, Joe. I mean, I think that just about wraps it up for what we're talking about. I mean, again, I think it has something to say that both of us ran Yoda. I mean, I think that's because he's an iconic character by himself, but I mean, both of us just knew how good he was anyways. So
Yeah, I mean, I still want to try Elite Ayla instead of the Elite Yoda version, but I'm not sure the Yoda felt really strong.
he did. Yeah, especially when you go the route of special chaining with the force throws and Obi-Wan's lightsaber and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
so just general news for all of our listeners. We are now on iTunes. For anybody watching this on YouTube and not knowing about that just yet, so that link will be in our description. And I also wanted to put out there that we do have a Patreon page, stuff like that. We'll get ways for Tommy and I to kind of help you out with deck making, testing, our more so Tommy's opinions because he's the magician here.
Yeah, well, my wife can open your booster packs if you send them to us.
Yeah, of course. So if you want to wire us money, we'll go down to the store. We'll buy you a booster box picked out by Tommy's wife, and then we'll ship it to you. And you can enjoy whatever 6 legendaries you wanted because that's what's going to be in that box. But down the road, we'll be doing some Aldar cards, some potential things like that. All that good stuff. And it really is just to help support hosting the RSS feed and all that stuff for iTunes costs a little bit of money. So it's not a big deal, but anything helps. And I'm just excited for our second episode getting off the ground a little bit. It's been a lot of fun just making content.
Yeah, I'm having a blast, Jack. Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah, man, of course. But yeah, so anybody that's listening to us, subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on iTunes. Give us a like on Facebook, as we'll be posting some of the images we talked about tonight on there. You can guys give comments about your decks if any of you ran Wedge Yoda or the 3-wide hero, and talk about your experiences. Let us know what you guys pulled and all that good stuff. And again, a shout out to iRebel for posting all that stats on the Empire at War Meta and who won those regionals. But any parting thoughts, Tommy?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Thank you to iRebel and Jedi Trials, who both mentioned Golden Dice at the end of their podcasts.
Good call. Yeah, check out both them, giving them that throwback shout out. Jedi Trials has been a blast. D-House is so fun. Listen to him talk about it, and he's a big Red Hero player, and I've been running Finn, so he's definitely got something going for him there. And then his partner, Rebel Spy, I think is what he goes by, but Mike. He's been a really good addition to that show. I love listening to him talk about Destiny also. And yeah, just iRebel was great, giving us a shout out. Always good listening to them. They're also posting really cool articles on their blog and stuff, so definitely check them out for all the Destiny content that I know you guys want, because I can't get enough of it. But yeah, until next time, I will catch you guys later. Thanks again, Tommy.
No problem. Thank you, Jack.
See you.